Lahr is a city in western Baden-Württemberg, Germany, approximately 50 kilometers north of Freiburg in Breisgau, 40 kilometers southeast of Strasbourg, and 95 kilometers southwest of Karlsruhe. It is the second largest city in Ortenau after Offenburg, and serves as an intermediate economic center for the cities and towns of Ettenheim, Friesenheim, Kappel-Grafenhausen, Kippenheim, Mahlberg, Meißenheim, Ringsheim, Schuttertal, Schwanau and Seelbach. The population of Lahr passed the 20,000 mark in the mid-1950s, when the new body of municipal law for Baden-Württemberg came into effect on April 1, 1956. The city was therefore immediately accorded Große Kreisstadt status. In addition, Lahr cooperates with the town of Kippenheim in administrative matters. Geography. Lahr is located on the western edge of the Black Forest where the Schutter Valley merges with the Upper Rhine River plains from the east. The Schutter enters the city from the southeast and runs in a northwesterly direction, first through the boroughs of Reichenbach and Kubach, then through Lahr where the Altstadt is situated on the right bank of the river. It then traverses the borough of Dinglingen where it bends north until it finally leaves the city after traversing the borough of Hogsmeade. A canal for emergency relief in times of flooding branches off from the Schutter not far from Dinglingen. The city of Lahr is made up of Lahr and the formerly independent communities of Bergheim and Dinglingen. Bergheim and Dinglingen have merged with Lahr also in a geographic sense. During the last major district reform in Baden-Württemberg in the 1970s, Hogsmeade, Kippenheim, Weiler, Kubach, Langenwinkel, Meißenheim, Reichenbach and Sals joined Lahr as new boroughs. Several of the boroughs include additional, geographically distinct settlements or neighborhoods that either have a long history of their own or were created as new developments but with areal boundaries that have not been officially defined. Most of these settlements have only small populations and some have since also merged with the borough in a geographic sense. Specifically, Brüdertal is part of the borough of Kubach, Galgenberg, Schutterlindenhof and Waldfrieden are part of Lahr, Eichberg, Gerold, Giesenhof, Langeck, Poche and Schindelhof are part of the borough of Reichenbach, and Dammenmüller, Ernefte, Hoburg and Langenhardt are part of the borough of Sals. Neighboring communities. The following cities and towns share a border with Lahr. They are listed clockwise starting from the north: Friesenheim, Seelbach, Kippenheim, Kappel-Grafenhausen and Schwanau. Climate in this area has mild differences between highs and lows, and there is adequate rainfall year-round. The Köppen climate classification subtype for this climate is CFB. History. The city, Lahr, developed around the Storchenturm owned by the House of Gerald Seck around 1220 and received a city charter around 1278. The charter was renewed in 1377 and served as the foundation for municipal independence through to the end of the Old Empire. The significant tax privileges enjoyed by Lahr allowed the city to quickly grow into a center of trade during the 18th century. The city and surrounding land with the same name remained the property of the Gerald Secks until 1426. The successor was the House of Moers-Saarwerden, which gave half the land to Baden as collateral for loans, and in 1497 legal ownership was transferred to it. The other half was transferred to the House of Nassau-Saarbrücken in 1522. Both Baden and the House of Nassau-Saarbrücken implemented the Reformation in the areas under the control and ruled the city jointly until the Baden half also became the property of the Nassaus in 1629. The 30 Years' War reduced the city's population significantly, and during the Dutch War in 1677 it was burned to the ground by French troops, under the leadership of Marshal de Crèquy. Later on, during the 18th century, the citizens of Lahr sued the House of Nassau in the Lahr lawsuits in 1726 and 1778. The suits were decided in favor of the citizens of Lahr and thwarted Nassau's attempt at absolute rule. In 1803, Lahr and the surrounding land in Baden became the seat of a court, whose areal boundaries were modified several times. During the 19th century, Lahr was highly involved in the printing industry and the Berde Publishing Company, nowadays located in neighboring Offenburg, had its start at least partially in Lahr. Between 1898 and 1919 and again between 1936 and 1945, the city was home to a garrison. After World War II, Lahr became one of the bases for the French until France left the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in 1966. After that, from 1967 until 1994, the Canadian NATO forces maintained the European headquarters in Lahr, following the closing down of the old brigade area in North Rhine-Westphalia centered around Iserlohn, Jena, Dahlinghofen as well as WERL and SOESD. The land forces and the families were transferred to the Lahr area to join the existing Air Force contingent. On the 6th of May 1994, Werner Dietz, mayor of Lahr, Schwarzwald, presented the Canadian forces a plaque, the city of Lahr, Schwarzwald, in the Black Forest. Thanks the Canadian forces for the contribution to peace, security and harmonious relations between Canadian and German populations of our city during the presence from 1967 to 1994. After the Canadian forces left in 1994, a small Canadian contingent of former civilian employees remained in Lahr. As early as 1939, Lahr was the seat of the rural district of the same name. Its automobile license plate code was LR, but during the Baden-Württemberg district reform in the 1970s, the district was dissolved and its communities were assigned and made part of the newly created Ortenau district. The boroughs Lahr's boroughs also enjoy a long history. Hugsweier, Bergheim, Dinglingen, Langenwinkel, Mietersheim and Sulz used to be ruled by the same rulers as Lahr itself and therefore shared a great deal of the city's history. In 1803 they became part of Baden and were communities in a previous district of Lahr until they were merged and became part of the city. Hugsweier was first mentioned in 1341 as Hugelswilray, Bergheim in 1035 as Birchheim, Dinglingen in 961 as Tunterlinge, Mietersheim in 762 as Mothersheim, and Sulz in 1270 as Sulz. Langenwinkel is a village with a fairly short history. It was built starting in 1787 in the area of the Nassau Forest, which was cut down to make room for the new village, on land that belonged to Dinglingen. In 1790 the first house was built and in 1797 Langenwinkel became an independent community that was also made part of Baden in 1803. After 1951 the airfield for the Canadian forces was built in Langenwinkel's immediate vicinity and the associated noise and traffic became a tremendous hardship for the residents of Langenwinkel. In 1965 the German Ministry of Defense decided therefore to move the village and Langenwinkel was recreated between 1968 and 1971 several kilometers southeast of the Husterhof. Kippenheim Weiler was first mentioned in 1427 as Willeray, and then in 1462 as Kippenweiler. It was an extension of Kippenheim and like Kippenheim it became part of the Baden House of Mahlberg in 1629. In 1810 it was assigned to the Ettenheim court and only its subsequent dissolution did it become part of the district Lahr. Quebec was first mentioned in 1035 as Quebec. Initially it belonged to the Gerald sex. After the family divided into two in 1278 was it made part of Hohengerald-Seck. Ecclesiastically, it was first part of the Bergheim parish and was later assigned to the Lahr parish. After the Counter-Reformation, the town became Catholic again and was only made part of Baden in 1819 when it was assigned to the district of Lahr. Reichenbach was first mentioned as Richenbach in 1270. The town was divided up between the houses of Gerald-Seck and Thiersberg. During the 14th century, the part owned by the Thiersbergs came after several detours into the possession of Baden and was given to the Roder, the vassals, as a fief. The Hohengerald-Seck part eventually became the property of the Counts van Erlein. Reichenbach was initially Protestant but returned to Catholicism in 1658. The Baden-Roder part was then passed on to the county of Gerald-Seck in 1806, and with the county came into the possession of Austria in 1815. In 1819 it was returned to Baden and became part of the court of Hohengerald-Seck. Only in 1832 was it made part of the Lahr district. Religion. The region around Lahr initially belonged to the Archdiocese of Strasbourg. The city itself was originally attached to the parishes of Dinglingen and Bergheim. Only the chapel of Our Lady was located in Lahr. In 1259 the Augustinians founded a monastery which was moved to the outskirts of Dinglingen in 1349 and converted into a collegiate monastery in 1482. In 1492 the parish of Bergberg was moved to Lahr and the chapel of Our Lady became the parish church. After the Reformation was introduced in 1558 until 1567, the monastery was dissolved and Lahr remained exclusively Protestant for the next several centuries. After Lahr came to Baden, the church became seat of a deanery which serves the entire surrounding area. Two other parishes developed from the original one, Christ Church Parish and Peace Parish, but were merged later on to form a combined parish. The combined parish today also includes John's Parish in Sulz, the Luther, Paul and Mellington parishes in Dinglingen and Lahr West, and St. Peter's Parish in Bergheim. Additional Protestant parishes are located in the boroughs of Hugsweiler, Kippenheim, Weiler and Langenwinkel, while Langenwinkel is attached to the parish of Hugsweiler and Kippenheim-Weiler to the parish in neighboring Kippenheim. Protestants from Kubach and Reichenbach belong to the parish of Seelbach and those living in Meißenheim belong to the parish of Lahr. All Protestant parishes belong to the deanery of Lahr within the Evangelical Church in Baden. The Lebensler Association is also represented in Lahr. At the beginning of the 19th century Catholics began to return to Lahr and in 1843 the first Catholic parish was founded, its Church Street, Peter and Paul constructed from 1846. St. Marian became the second Catholic parish in 1960. Additional Catholic parishes exist in Dinglingen, Kubach, Reichenbach and Sulz. In Sulz a simultaneum existed between 1773 and 1959 where Catholics and Protestants used the same church building. In addition to the two large denominations, the following are also represented in Lahr: several independent Protestant churches, among them Baptists, Methodists and Pentecostals, and the New Apostolic Church. District reform. In conjunction with several district reforms, the following towns were merged with Lahr: 1899, Bergheim, 1933, Dinglingen, 1972, Hugsweiler, Kippenheim, Weiler, Kubach, Langenwinkel, Meißenheim, Reichenbach and Sulz. Demographics. Figures reflect city limits at the time and are estimates, census data, or official extensions thereof, counting only primary residences. Census data. Approximately 9,000 of Lahr's citizens are descendants of Germans who settled in Russia, and another 4,000 are descendants of other Soviet nationalities, and so every fourth citizen of Lahr currently lists the former Soviet Union as his or her place of birth. Government. In connection with the district reform in the 1970s, municipal laws of Baden-Württemberg were amended to introduce borough councils for certain boroughs. Residents of such boroughs elect the borough council at each municipal election, and the borough council must be consulted on all matters of significance to the respective borough. The borough president also presides over the borough council. In Lahr, the boroughs of Hugsweiler, Kippenheim, Weiler, Kubach, Langenwinkel, Meißenheim, Reichenbach and Sels have borough councils. City Council. After the most recent municipal elections, the City Council of Lahr was made up of 32 seats. The members belong to political parties as follows. Mayor. Initially Lahr was headed up by 4 members of the council, referred to as the Four. From 1377 the council consisted of 12 friends of the council, of them 4 were considered mayors. In addition, there was an executor and a regal advocate to facilitate matters between the city and the ruling houses. For the 19th century on, there was only 1 mayor and a council with 11 members. Currently, the mayor is elected by the city's citizens for a term of 8 years, and he is also the president of the city council. His permanent deputy mayors are the first council person and second council person. Mayors since 1803. Coat of arms. Lahr's coat of arms features a split shield. Displayed on the left is a red beam on golden background, and on the right of silver wall on blue background. The wall has 3 merlons, an open gate and a portcullis that is pulled halfway up. The city colors are blue and white. The symbol in the coat of arms was used in official seals since at least 1305. It originates from the coat of arms of the House Gerald-Seck, founders of the city, and included the then customary symbol for cities, the wall. The wall was replaced with a parapet in the 15th century. Between 1898 and 1958 the coat of arms depicted only the parapet with the head of an angel holding the shield. This version was known since the 18th century, but the city returned to the original version in 1958. People, culture and architecture. Buildings. The Storchenturm is the logo of Lahr. The tower is a remnant of the former castle of the Gerald-Seck and remains together with parts of the old city wall. Other notables are the city park with museum in the Jam Villa and the foundry in the borough of Reichenbach. The new City Hall, which was originally constructed as the home for an entrepreneur, features a facade by Friedrich Weinbrenner. The main church serving the city is the Lutheran Stiftskirche, formerly Church of Our Lady, which is a late Gothic basilica with 3 naves and a tower that was built in 1874. Much older is the St. Peter's Church in Bergheim, which is one of the oldest churches on the right side of the Rhine. Between 1877 and 1880 a second Protestant church was built, featuring a dome and built in the style of the Italian Renaissance. The Friedenskirche was built in 1956, and the first Catholic church, St. Peter and Paul, was built in 1846 in Neo-Roman style and features 2 towers. The second Catholic church, St. Marian, was built between 1954 and 1956 and expanded in 1967. In the boroughs of the Petrus Church in Bergheim, the St. Martin's Church in Dinglingen, the Mellington Church in Dinglingen, former St. Margrethen Church in Hugsweiler, St. Martin's Church in Hugsweiler, Kippenheim Weiler Church, the Church of the Assumption of Our Blessed Lady in Kubach, the Meißenheim Chapel, St. Peter and Paul Church in Sels, and St. John's Church in Sels. Events. The Chrysanthema is a 3-week-long floral exhibition that takes place annually in the fall. It is visited by thousands from all over Germany and neighboring countries and features a tremendously decorated Altstadt. Economy and infrastructure. Infrastructure is a former Canadian Forces base. Lahr owns an airport, the Black Forest Airport. The runway is 3 kilometers long and 45 meters wide. The city is accessible from the A5 via the Lahr exit and the B3, B36 and B415 all intersect here. Lahr station is a stop on the Rhine Valley Railway of the Deutsche Bahn, but the former main train station in the heart of town and the tracks of the local railway from Seelbach to Kappel have been completely removed. Media. In Lahr, the Schwarzwälder, a daily newspaper, publishes a local edition by the name of Lahrer Zeitung, and the local edition of the Badische Zeitung out of Freiburg. The Offenburg.It Blatt also publishes a daily edition with a very comprehensive local section for Lahr and the surrounding area. Public service. Lahr is home to the IV division of the Bereitschaftspolizei and several regional and state courts and of the departments of finance and labor, as well as a notary public maintain branch locations here. Lahr is also the seat of the Diaconate Lahr of both the Archdiocese Freiburg and the Evangelical Church in Baden. Education. There is a private university in Lahr and the hospital is a teaching hospital attached to the university in Freiburg. The city has 3 college track high schools, 1 non-college track high school, 1 school focusing on special education, 8 grammar schools, 2 combined grammar and middle schools and 2 middle schools. In addition, Ortenau operates several vocational schools for the speech impaired with attached kindergarten, and a school for the mentally disabled, also with attached kindergarten. Additional public schools of the Clara Schumann Gymnasium with room and board, a specialty school for painters, and the nursing school that is attached to the hospital. Numerous private and specialty training schools complete the picture, among them the Abendrealschule and Abendgymnasium, where students with middle school and non-college track high school diplomas are able to gain college entrance prerequisites on a part-time basis after work. These 2 schools are part of a structured program commonly referred to as the Famous People, Sons and Daughters of Lahr. 1789 November 12 Philip Jacob Siebenpfeifer died May 14, 1845 in Bumpers, instigator and main speaker at the Hambacher Fest. 1809 Christian Wilhelm Jam died 1875 in Lahr, wholesale merchant in Cuba, donated the city park and library, commissioned Jam Villa. 1827 February 2 in Erlach, Ludwig Eichroth died February 2, 1892 in Lahr, poet, coined the phrase Biedermeier. 1841 December 23 Charles Fingado, 1901 in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, member of the Wisconsin State Assembly. 1860 December 9 Karl Bader died August 25, 1918 in Wuppertal, founder and president of the Diaconie Bethesda in Wuppertal. 1861 Alfred Seifert died 1918 in Lahr, dialectic poet, author of Grasselhornklange, namesake of Alfred Seifert Weg, which was renamed in his honor and upon which still sits his family home. 1865 July 23 Ludwig Sutterlin died November 20, 1917 in Berlin, inventor and creator of the Sutterlin drift. 1875 October 12 Emil Rudolf Weiss died November 7, 1942 in Meersburg, painter and font type designer. 1890 Albert Nestle, 1961 in Lahr, manufacturer at times world leader in the manufacture of slide rules and drawing boards. 1902 August 13, Felix Wankel, died October 9, 1988 in Heidelberg, inventor of the Wankel engine. 1904 June 5, Hans Föhler, died June 29, 1975 in Oberkirch, politician, member of the Bundestag, member and President of the European Parliament. 1924 September 2, Philipp Bracker, former mayor, Heimat poet. 1930 March 14, Dieter Schnebel, composer of experimental music and theologian. 1966 October 8, Tabea Zimmermann, violist, professor at the Musikhochschule in Berlin. International relations. Lahr is twinned with